Uncertainty and change are some of the few constant things that you can actually rely on for pretty much the rest of your life. But I'm personally not always the best at handling them, whether that is actively going through times of change and uncertainty with a good mindset or actively embracing them for what it actually is, which is a chance to grow. But I have gotten better over the times and over the years at taking them in stride and going through them with a sense of optimism instead of anxiety and foreboding. So, keeping everything simple, let's talk about tackling uncertainty with simple intentions that can change the rest of your life. Let's dive right in. Welcome back to the Keeping Everything Simple podcast. I'm your host and fellow student, Michael Klukas, and on this show, we boil down complicated topics into simple and actionable tips. Now, the first thing that I need to touch on is that you don't want to get rattled when it comes to change and uncertainty. What I mean by this is you don't want to let the actual situation that you find yourself in, the actual scenario or the life circumstance that's changing, you don't want to necessarily let it rattle you in a way that throws you off course. And I understand that this is easier said than done. But if you are trying to embrace change with, again, a sense of optimism and setting your intention to actively go through it while not crumbling from it, then it is important that you kind of set this intention beforehand of, okay, I won't let change that is definitely going to come no matter what. I won't let it rattle me. I won't let it throw me so off kilter or so off course that I won't be able to recover, or I won't be able to keep some semblance of not necessarily control, but at least some semblance of security, I think is a good way to put it. Because usually when we are going through times of change, we are worried about this lack of security, this unknown that we're going into. And that's where so much anxiety of it comes from. And then along that point, you then want to know that when you are trying not to get rattled by change, then you can't control what happens. You can only control how you react to the situation. And that's why I said it's an intention of setting the intention not to be rattled, where you can't plan for everything, you can't control everything. But if you are actively choosing to react in a more constructive and a more healthy manner, then whenever change comes your way, you'll be much more equipped and in a much more stable mental space to actively weather that storm with a good kind of clear goal in mind, or much more clarity on how to handle the situation to the best of your ability. And it's key to say to the best of your ability, because that's going to look different for truly everyone. And real quick, thank you guys so much for watching. And if you are finding any value on this, if you watch this on YouTube, make sure you leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Ring that notification bell so you know every time that we upload a new episode. It really does help us out so much, and I greatly appreciate it. If you're listening to us on Spotify or a podcast app, then make sure you leave us a 5-star rating and give us a follow. That way you know, again, every time I upload a new episode. And it just stokes my ego just a little bit more. But with that, let's jump right back into the podcast. This is a true situation that can occur. And in the same breath, I want to make sure that we are setting that intention to expect the unexpected, to understand that when change comes, and it will, that we are embracing them in a way that can help us become a better person tomorrow, because we grow through struggle, we grow through hardship. And yes, that's not always a prerequisite to becoming a better individual or improving your life circumstances, but it definitely does help. So with change being an opportunity to grow, your intention is that you should expect the unexpected. And of course, New Year's is a great time for this to happen, because we are at the start of a fresh 365 days. And of course, it's a little bit after New Year's that this video and this episode is going live. But the main point here is that as we are trying to think about who we want to be at the end of this year, or what we even want to accomplish in the next couple of months, it's so important that we are expecting things to go off the rails so we can plan what's going to happen, but then we always have to be able to improvise, because something will probably throw you off track, and then you have to be able to adapt because if you are changing the plan on the fly, then you have to be able and in a mental spot to say, okay, I can handle this sudden change of course, and then you have to overcome the uncertainty, overcome the anxiety, overcome the self-doubt that likely will plague all of us. Because I know for myself that's happened so often where something is about to change in my life and I worry, am I going to be able to handle this? Am I going to be good enough to handle this? What if I'm not? What if something goes even more horribly wrong? Those are concerns that we all share, and that's perfectly natural and perfectly okay. But expect the unexpected, maintain the plan, improvise where necessary, adapt to the improvisations, and then overcome the challenges. And the final point that I want to make here is you need to change your mindset around uncertainty. And I'm not talking about just change overall. I'm talking about the feeling of uncertainty, because uncertainty doesn't need to be scary, but it is okay if it feels that way. Because when we are faced with uncertainty, we're faced with this feeling that we have lost control, that we don't know what's going to happen next. We don't know where we're going to end up. And no one likes having what feels like the ground beneath them crumbling away. So letting it be okay to feel like you're scared of uncertainty and the unknown is something that I want to encourage, because for myself, that's helped me so much in understanding that, hey, everyone's going to feel scared. I'm okay to feel scared, but I can't let that stop me. I can take time to sit with it. I can take time to be afraid. I can take time to have the anxiety kind of exist. But at the end of the day, I have to face it. I have to face the uncertainty. And that, again, is something that comes with practice, comes with building that muscle and building that skill, where it's not going to be easy in the beginning to say, all right, I'm going through a big life change right now and so much is uncertain and I don't know what's going to happen. That's going to happen a lot more the older you get. And that comes with, again, just time, practice, and setting the intention to be okay with uncertainty and be okay with it feeling scary, but understanding that you still have to face it in the end. Real quick, if you are enjoying this episode, then you might also enjoy our weekly newsletter, the Keeping Everything Simple newsletter. Yes, there is a very obvious naming scheme going on here, but that's besides the point. If you want to get an inside look into how some of the lessons and stories I talk about play out in my life, then the weekly newsletter would be a great way to dive deeper into that, as well as getting resources and recommendations for books, articles, other YouTube videos that will give you greater insight into some of these complicated topics and how we're going to be able to boil them down more and more together. Subscribe down below in the link in description to the Keeping Everything Simple newsletter, and I will see you in your inbox. All right, let's get back to the podcast. And as I mentioned a second ago as well, there's also then the anxiety around the situation where you can feel scared and then you can feel anxious. But you want to always be the one with your hands on the steering wheel. I've often used the example of that your life is like a car. You are in the driver's seat. You are going through the journey of life. Consider it a road trip, and there's stops along the way. There's points you want to hit along the way. But the important thing is that your hands are on the steering wheel and you're the one that's going forward. You're facing forward. Now, with uncertainty and whenever anxiety pops up into it, then anxiety is usually like that backseat driver that you just know won't shut up, and you know is just going to be there being like, hey, you should speed up a little bit, or hey, aren't you getting a little too close to that person, or hey, look, listen. Yes, that was a Zelda reference, but beyond that. The thing is, with anxiety being that backseat driver, we want to make sure that we aren't allowing them to reach forward and be the ones to grab the steering wheel from us, because in situations like that, then we're putting ourselves in a much more difficult position to actually go through these changes and go through life with our set intentions in place. Because when we have our hands on the steering wheel, we're able to direct where we go. We're able to direct ourselves in and out of traffic. We're able to go through the traffic jams of life and, go through it in stride and maintain our pace. But when anxiety would take the wheel from us, then we're suddenly thrust into the passenger seat or into the back seat, and their foot's on the gas, it's pedal to the metal. You are going fast, you're going far, and you don't know where, and you don't want them in that driver's seat. So keep your hands on the wheel. Let anxiety be. Sometimes it's going to take a matter of just listening to them in the background saying, like, hey, it's okay that you feel anxious. It's okay. but you better not touch the steering wheel. In the same vein, also learning to exist with it, learning to go along with it, because it's not something we can always escape, but it is something that we can always set the intention to be in control of, in terms of, again, reacting to it, in terms of how we modify our behaviors to ensure that the anxiety doesn't take the steering wheel from us. So those are the three kind of key points I want to touch on as we go into 2025 and whatever this year holds, is that with change and the unknown, you don't want to get rattled. Set the intention to control how you react. You want to use change as an opportunity to grow. So set the intention to expect the unexpected, because nothing truly ever goes fully according to plan. And then you want to set the intention of changing your mindset around uncertainty, and that you can sit with the feelings of anxiety, fear, and whatever else comes, but set the intention that you don't allow them to take the steering wheel, that you sit with them on this road trip of life. And honestly, I don't know what the rest of the year holds for me. I am starting school again. I'm aiming to get a master's, or I'm starting a master's program this coming year, or starting the prerequisites for it, just so I can get started at the end of this year. And this is the first full year of being married. This is year 3 of going on, starting this YouTube channel again and this podcast. And there's just so much that I want to do, and so much that I don't know if it's going to pan out the way I hope. But ultimately, that's part of the adventure. That's part of the journey. And I think that's the exciting part, because the fear and anxiety, they feel the same. The butterflies in the stomach, the kind of the sweat or the cold sweat that can build up at times, but that's the same as understanding what excitement feels like. The butterflies in the stomach, the sweaty hands, and thankfully no vomit or spaghetti on my sweater. But ultimately, it still comes down to the fact that I'm embracing it, because I've set the intentions. I know what I'm getting myself into, I hope. But it's part of the process. And the best thing I can do is trust the process. But with that, keeping everything simple, have an amazing day, you amazing people. If you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Ring that notification bell so you know every time that I upload a new episode. It truly helps me out. If you're listening to us on Spotify or another podcast app of choice, make sure you leave us a 5-star rating, no more, no less, because that really does help share the show with other people just like you, and I do greatly appreciate it. You guys make this show possible. But with that, I will see you all in the next episode. Go out there and do great things. Welcome to 2025. See you next time.